How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your May 2019 horoscope for Scorpio, Sun, and Rising. Thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you. This month, we're going to be facing a lot of, I don't want to necessarily say challenges, but there are going to be obstacles and barriers in our way as we're starting to, continue to write the story for 2019. And this month is really crucial because this month of May is a turning point in that story, especially as we look at the eclipses going back from January of 2019 until we get to July of 2019. This is definitely the midpoint. We're going to be faced with some, not like I said, challenges and some obstacles, but there's also just as equally a good amount of good energy this month that's really going to spring us forward and not just, help us survive. Like, this is really going to help us thrive. So let's go ahead and jump into the horoscope. So starting off this month, at the beginning of the month, at the end of April into the beginning of May, Saturn is stationing retrograde in Capricorn in your third house. Now, this is pretty important because as Saturn's been direct for the past few months in Capricorn, Saturn being, of course, the planet of limitations and discipline and authority, barriers and walls and what's holding you back. It's very restrictive and very concentrated. And this has been direct in Capricorn for the past few months, and this is happening in your third house. And the third house is kind of a weird area for, any planet to be, really, because the third house has a lot of different, rulerships. It rules over a lot of different things. One being your communication, your writing and your speaking style and what you're expressing. Another being how you really utilize yourself, since the first house is what you have, the second house is what you got, and the third house is how you use it. The third house also has to do with siblings and neighbors that were basically within close proximity. Now, with Saturn stationing retrograde, you might have had a lot of challenges given to you, or a lot of, again, walls, barriers, more responsibilities given to you as Saturn's been direct. And now as Saturn stations retrograde and will be retrograde for the next few months, this is about the time to take on those obstacles and take on those challenges that have been given to you, as well as maybe if you're in a day chart and Saturn's a little bit more constructive in your chart, this is going to be a time of taking on a greater sense of responsibility within, maybe it's your siblings, maybe it's within your neighbors or your very immediate community. Maybe this has to do with your speaking or your writing style. However, Saturn stationing retrograde is a time of taking on challenges and basically putting in the hard-ass work that it takes to overcome challenges while also taking on a bigger sense of responsibility. And this is going to pay off in the end, so don't worry about that stuff. As we move forward into May, on May 4th, we're going to have the new moon in Taurus. And this is super exciting for you guys because this is happening in your 7th house. So when you have a new moon, it's when you have both of the luminaries in the same sign, and they're always good for resetting intentions, clearing out energy, and kind of just like focusing on that area. Now, this is in your 7th house of relationships, of other people, one-on-one relationships. So this doesn't always have to mean marriage, although it explicitly does. This does have to deal with one-on-one relationships in any given context. Now, with this new moon right here being in Taurus, Taurus is it's a fixed sign of spring. You guys are Scorpio, all about fixed signs. However, Taurus is about things growing. During the springtime, we want to keep stability and security in the flowers blooming, in the grass turning greener. This is really important to understand when we're looking at Taurus because it's about stability of abundance. Now, this new moon is going to be resetting this intention and resetting this energy for you guys when it comes to what relationships do you want to grow and where. Now, as we move forward, a couple days later, we're going to have Mercury enter Taurus and go into your 7th house as well. So, like I said, Mercury is the planet of communication, intellect, logic, our thinking style, our mindset, how we speak, all of that stuff. And as Mercury, this communicator and this messenger, enters Taurus and enters your 7th house, this is definitely going to be a time of where, more of your mind, more of the mercurial things of life are more focused on the relationships that you have in place. But Mercury is in the sign of Taurus, where its idea and its mindset is in the archetype of how do I keep this stability of things going nice? How do I keep this beauty and this security long lasting? And I think that's going to be really important as Mercury transits your 7th and as you look at the relationships you have in your life. Then a few days later, we're going to have Mercury conjoin Uranus on May 8th. Now, while Mercury conjoins Uranus, this is going to be kind of electrifying. You know how I was saying last month, if you haven't seen what Uranus looks like in your chart yet, wait till the Sun conjoins Uranus, and that was last month in April. However, this month, Mercury, the communicator, the planet basically giving messages, is going to be on top of Uranus. And Uranus is, again, liberation, breakthroughs, extreme ups and downs. And this is in the 7th house of relationships. So, relationships and people can just be willy-nilly and all over the place. And Mercury is going to be communicating that message. And I think this is going to come down to, where do you need to find a new and creative and revitalized sense of stability and security within the context of relationships? Then, as we move forward onto May 15th, we're going to have Venus enter Taurus as well. And this is super exciting. This is like the best part for you guys this month, because Venus, again, the planet of love, relationships, she's wanting to connect. She wants things to be beautiful. She wants you to indulge in everything that's super nice. She's going into her home sign of Taurus. This is her favorite place where she can accentuate, the beauty and help things grow. And she wants to bring more of that in and receive more of that in. Now, this is happening, again, in your 7th house of relationships, of other people. So don't be surprised if you start finding more people that are like wanting to connect to you more. Or maybe if you're single, you're like, hey, this relationship kind of came out of nowhere. Venus and Taurus in the 7th house, this is going to be a really good time to not necessarily redefine, but become more stable and secure within the context of relationships. But what I find important is the next day on May 16th, Venus is going to conjoin Uranus, where, like I said before, this isn't about redefining what we find valuable in relationships. This is about making it more, I don't want to say new age, but the old isn't necessary. It's not that it's bad, it's that it doesn't work necessarily as good anymore. And how can you evolutionize and how can you kind of ratify what you find stable and secure in relationships? And I think Venus conjoining Uranus is going to be really important to look at that. Now, on the same day, on May 16th, Mars is also going to enter Cancer, and this is entering your 9th house. Now, Mars is the planet of action and energy and drive, focus. You guys are Scorpio rising, so you're Mars ruled. This is very much an integral part of you. Now, Mars also has to do with severing, cutting, piercing. It inflammates things. It's hot, it's dry, it severs, and it cuts. And Mars is entering its sign of fall, meaning it doesn't necessarily work the best there. Mars in Cancer is kind of like, I've been using the analogy, it's like Mars is like a military marine person, and Mars in Cancer is like that marine trying to be like a babysitter or something like that. Like, maybe not the best suitable position for that. Now, Mars entering Cancer, Cancer being the sign of trust, of intuition, of protecting, of nurturing. I want to hit on this because I think this is important, because Mars, in the sign of Cancer, it's kind of like it needs to take action on what is important, on what it needs to protect, on what it needs to nurture. And this is happening in your 9th house of spirituality, of philosophy, far distance travel. This is also, about religion and, publishing, as well as foreign languages and anything of that nature. Now, Mars going through that sign, you may have some irritations and some problems with those things, but you may feel very called and compelled to go in those directions and take action and really trust what is not only what needs to be protected within yourself and within your beliefs, but what needs to be nurtured inside of you. Now, as we move forward into May, on May 21st, we're going to have the Sun and Mercury enter the sign of Gemini. And during that time, Mercury's going to go cazimi with the Sun, where it basically gets pierced by the sun and gets purified by fire. This is happening in your 8th house, which is a weird place for this to happen. The 8th house is all about death, transformation, other people's money, your partner's money to be specific, taxes, inheritances, things that we don't see, secrets. And as the sun goes into the 8th house and Mercury goes into the 8th house, this is going to be kind of lighting up this area for you. But while Mercury's on top of the sun and it gets purified by fire and it gets a very clear message, I think you may be getting a message from this area of, I shouldn't say a little bit, a lot more clear understanding. So maybe if you're struggling with taxes, or you're in debt, or you need other, the 8th house is basically, if you're working with someone, that person is the 7th house. Whatever they got is the 8th house. So when you're in that dynamic of any type of relationship, that Sun Mercury conjunction in the 8th house is going to be bringing a light to like, hey, what is this person doing that I'm not sure of, that I don't know what's going on? Then as we move to the end of the month, on May 30th, we're going to have Mercury oppose Jupiter, which this is going to be kind of interesting because Jupiter's now retrograde in your 2nd house. It's kind of like, Jupiter going direct in your 2nd house is like, I want money and I want to, have and own and possess things, and this is what I want it to look like. Jupiter stationing retrograde in your second house is kind of like, what is it going to take for me philosophically, spiritually, on a mental level for me to believe that I can have those things and obtain those things? Now, Mercury opposing Jupiter is kind of like, you know, that even though you may have a sense of idealism of what you want your money and your finances to look like, Mercury opposing it may be like that. Now that we have this clear information, you're probably not going to be, I don't want to say like, oh, you know, kill all your hopes and dreams with the money that you want to make, because that's not what it is. It's kind of like, in order for that idealism, for that vision to grow into something, Mercury is going to be presenting a message that not necessarily is going to tell you no, but that's going to present an obstacle or a challenge on that level. But then as we go into the last day of May, on May 31st, we are going to have Venus trine Saturn. And this is super positive because, well, Saturn's retrograde in your third house, and this is about taking on more responsibility, you know, facing challenges when it comes to what you're doing, how you're doing it, your communication. Venus is in your seventh house and it's trining Saturn, where it's bringing the people that you need, that you value, to help you be more constructive in this area. So I do think that by the time we get into the end of May, you know, those relationships that you've been working on are really going to help, you know, build a stable and solid foundation for you to help work yourself up to the next level. And with that being said, that's what I got for you guys. So thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you, and I'll be seeing you next month.